Welcome to Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly with host Nancy Becher on Global Voice Radio. Nancy and her guests will share tips and recommendations on moving forward in your life and business now and not waiting till pigs fly. Here's your host, Nancy Becher. This is Denise Joy Thompson, founder of Global Voice Radio, and I want to welcome all of our listeners to the inaugural episode of one of our new shows. And we'll talk about the name of the show later on with our conversation. But I want to introduce everyone to our new host, Nancy Becher.
Hi, everybody.
I am so excited to have Nancy as one of our hosts on Global Voice Radio. And I know that all of our listeners will definitely enjoy her show and will be able to create the life they want by listening and implementing her tips. A few things I want to say about Nancy, though, before we start. Nancy currently lives in Michigan with her husband, Ed, who is a retired Marine. Now, one of the things we also know is once a Marine, always a Marine. So when I first had my conversation with Nancy, and being a military member myself, we had this instant connection of understanding that military world, understanding the structure and the go for it attitude that we need to have in business. Nancy has been a business owner for many years, and she has a no BS, no nonsense approach to helping others to build their businesses and to create a life that they love to live. So, Nancy, welcome.
Thank you.
And as part of the introduction of you and your show to our listeners, to our Global Voice Radio audience and our supporters, let's talk a little bit about how did you get started in life? And we don't have to go way back to kindergarten per se, but talk a little bit about, your early adulthood, your journey, and some of the things that have happened along the way that you learned from, that you grew from, and that you then incorporated into your business.
My life is business going back to kindergarten. It really is. I think my first business was when I was 12 years old. And one of the things that I've learned and have really brought to be a part of my existence and the things that I like to give my customers is that rather than saying, oh, this is simple, you can make money while you sleep, it's hard work. There's a lot of work involved in it. And even when things are going well, you have to be careful because you can sneeze wrong and something's going to happen. I've, on several occasions throughout my 30 plus years of being in business, I've had situations come up where I was hit by a bus on the streets of Washington, D.C. and was out of work for 2 years. I was in a hit and run car accident and am still dealing with that. And that makes running a business really difficult. And I think you just have to know that if this is something you truly want, you've got to figure out ways around it. And you've got to realize that you've got to maintain your enthusiasm, your wanting to be a part of this, or it can just get to be too much and you might as well just lock the door.
Right. And I think everyone has a level of adversity. Everyone has trials and tribulations in their life. When we look at what happens in the world today, the natural disasters that occur, man-made disasters that occur, those interrupt our life. We may have, like you in your accidents, have physical injuries that we have to heal from, overcome, and that affects us not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. And I think also the point you made about the not making money while we sleep. Now, at a certain point in time, when our business is well established and we have a lot of systems in place, that may occur. But I think sometimes there are people who advertise how easy it is to create a business. And I know myself, it does take work. It takes having a mentor. It takes having people support you. It takes understanding technology, understanding sales, and that doesn't happen overnight.
No, it most certainly doesn't. And I don't think that you ever can really think, I'm just going to put this on autopilot and I'm not going to worry about it. Because I was pretty much to that point with my business in DC at one point. And I had staff, I had systems, I'd been doing it for many, many years. And I wound up getting sick that when I was injured in the bus accident. And I was out for almost 2 years. And because I wasn't there every day, and I am not a micromanager, but if you're not there, if you don't know what's going on, if you don't pay attention to everything, you can wake up one morning and go, what happened? You know, I no longer have a business. So I think that there are things that you can do that make it easier once you are established, once you do have these things in process that make it easier for you. But I don't think it's ever a good idea to just say, I'm just going to put it on autopilot and not worry about it.
Right, because even when we think about the true autopilot, where that word came from is when there was technology that allowed pilots of a plane for a certain length of time in certain conditions to put the plane on autopilot. But when there was turbulence, when they're taking off, when they're landing, when they have to choose a different direction for whatever reason, they do not leave the plane on autopilot. It then takes their whole attention to make the decisions to keep the plane flying and to keep us safe. So I think your point on, yes, there are certain things that can happen automatically, and especially with the technology we have today, but we as the owner, as the CEO, as the creator, founder of our businesses, we have to provide oversight and continue to have our vision be the framework for our business. So going back to when you were 12, what were you doing at 12 in regards to having your own business?
I had a retail store called Things and Stuff. And it was a retail store that my mother and I ran in the basement of my mom and dad's house. And it was my mother, my sister, and I would make all kinds of handicrafts, macrame, needlepoint, all of that kind of thing. And we literally had store hours where people would come and they would shop and we collected money. I had to pay sales tax. I did the whole, gamut of running a business. I had to market. I had to let people know we were there. We could have had the most wonderful things in the world, but if no one knew we had them and if they, and that they were for sale, nothing would have sold. So we had to do marketing. We had to do and back then, how do you let people know? There wasn't the internet. There wasn't, all the wonderful things. It was knocking on doors. It was the yellow pages. Just you really had to be, the whole gamut. And at 12, I started learning that, and I've never stopped. It's just gone on from there.
Well, the fact that your mother and your sister, all of you did this together, what a great example, in some ways of what we talk about in regards to women being business owners, women supporting each other, almost this women's empowerment that you had. at an age, the 12, the teenage years are very difficult for us in creating our identity and being comfortable with ourselves. So having that happen, I can just imagine what that did for you in seeing what you can do and what you can achieve. Yeah. So talk a little bit then, where did you go from there? Going into young adulthood, what kinds of things happened for you in your life in regards to building other businesses?
Once I graduated, well, I always, as I said, I've always run some sort of a business or other, doing different things. And as I graduated from high school, I decided I wanted to go to college, and you would think I would have gone into business, but my undergraduate degrees are in psychology, sociology, and French, which even the French, believe it or not, has helped me with businesses going forward. But the psychology and the sociology are immensely important because it helps me understand people. It helps me understand who it is that I want to work with and what people want from me, and I can just put the two together. Once I graduated from my undergraduate degree, I then got a master's in counseling, which again, considering I'm now a consultant / coach, was very beneficial because I learned, how to counsel and talk to other people. And then something way out of the norm is I got my doctorate in Middle Eastern affairs. But even to that extent, it's been beneficial because a lot of my clients are international. And so I've learned how to deal with international. But the whole time I was in college, it started out with me typing term papers and editing term papers for other students when I was at my undergraduate. By the time I got to my master's program, I had opened my first of 7 administrative management companies that my mother and father and I ran in different states. And we dealt with a lot of different people doing a lot of different things for them. And by the time I was in my doctoral program, my particular office in Washington, D.C. had spun out to be the consulting company that I now have. People that I was working with would ask me, how do you do this? And, do you know anyone who does this? And so it started out with the monthly getting together and talking. And I really had a mastermind program before anybody had ever heard of mastermind programs. And that's how it all started.
Mm-hmm. So, another similarity that we have in our backgrounds is our counseling background and working with people in that way. And, I think it can be a very good foundation for individuals that then go into coaching. That's what I had done. I got to a point where I no longer wanted to do private practice. I didn't want to work with patients. And what could I do then, but still working with people and helping people, as I did as a therapist, to create changes and to create the life that they wanted, moving into coaching. And similar to you, my demographics have been women business owners, helping them to create change. Because one of the things that we know is that oftentimes there are blocks that get in people's way. Even our own way, right? There is no therapist, no counselor, no coach that does not have their own blocks.
Absolutely.
So, Nancy, talk about your philosophy, your perspective in regards to someone building their business.
I alluded to that earlier a little bit when I said it's hard work. So many times the people that come to me think, and there's nothing wrong with this if they're looking for, the term of the day is side hustle. If somebody is interested in earning a couple of $100s a month extra so they can go out and have dinner with friends or go see a play or something like that, and they don't really want to spend a lot of time and energy, that's fine. But I think that it is really important for people that are truly serious about having the 6 and 7 figure businesses that are out there to understand that it's going to take time, it's going to take work, it's going to take a lot of dealing with things both on a personal level and on understanding who their clients and potential clients are. And it's a whole lot easier and better to do it if you can do it with other people around you, and supporting you. And that's really what I believe, and everything is totally about, is let's work together. When I was going up and working with my business, there wasn't anybody to help me. I had to do it all on my own. There wasn't even internet when I started out, so it was getting books out of the library. And if I couldn't find anything on what I was looking for, I had to figure it out on my own, and oh my goodness, it just was so difficult. I don't want that for the people I work with and talk to. I want them to not take 35 years to figure out what it is they're doing, but maybe get it together in 6 or 8 months and get started rather than taking them so long. So I totally believe in the let's support each other and let's get this done.
Well, and I think there are so many opportunities today, since the advent of internet and the technology that we have, there are so many ways that we can connect with people, that we can provide services, that we can sell products. I mean, if we look at the number of network marketing companies that are now, around the world, because we have social media to connect with people around the world. And I think that network marketing, at times it might get a bad rap, but I think that it is almost essential to our economies today in providing so many opportunities for individuals who can't necessarily afford a brick and mortar. They don't have services per se that they can provide to individuals, but they can learn to do products, to sell products, to market products. But any type of business, as you mentioned, needs to understand the foundations of marketing, of sales, now because technology is part of our world, and understanding that technology. And even though we can go to YouTube, we can search the internet, it still is more helpful to have someone to talk us through the learning of that technology, the learning of marketing and sales that we might not have done before.
I agree, totally. And, I think one of the simplest but most difficult to understand and deal with concepts that are out there for someone who is just starting a business is the ideal target market. You ask someone, who do they sell to? And almost everyone will say, well, I was hearing somebody talk the other day, and this question came up, and they were talking about, they asked a chiropractor who was his target market. And the chiropractor said, well, anybody that has a spine is my target, and I'm going, no, that's not right, so it really is, and technology can help with that, into the idea of doing market research, just plain talking to people. But I think we can't just say, okay, I'm in business, and sit back and wait for somebody to come knocking on your door, whether that be through email or picking up the phone or literally knocking on your door. You've got to understand a whole lot more than that.
Right, right. So there's several things that I want to discuss with you. But before we go to the next part of our discussion, let's talk about your show. And so you have a very unique title of your show. And this is something, in some ways, the concept has been with you for a while. So let's talk about your show and what people are going to learn from you.
Okay. I've literally been talking about it the whole way through this conversation, and that's the fact that due to any number of reasons, and it goes back to sociology, it goes back to psychology, whatever, people can be afraid, they can be overwhelmed, they can be, I just don't know where to go next kind of feelings. But often somebody will decide that they want to run a business, but nothing ever happens. It just sits there churning in their brain, and they get frustrated because they want to do something, but it doesn't happen. And early on, I decided I don't want this to be, even though it is work and it's hard, I want it to be fun. I want it to be something that you enjoy doing, because if you don't enjoy your business, you might as well just go get a job. Oftentimes jobs are really much more stable. You, for the most part, know you're going to have a paycheck coming in. You've got your health insurance benefits and all that. And when you start out a business, it's very unknown. So I want it to be fun. I want people to enjoy what they're doing. And at the same time, I don't want them just to sit back and say, all right, anytime now, come on, people, start coming. So my business took on the persona of, and you can see in the background here, I have a flying pig. And the name of my program and a lot of everything else that I do is Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly. And I have been known for years, and this I think it's funny. I'm not sure it's really a good thing to be known for, but I'm known as the pig lady. And my birthday is tomorrow, and I just got a birthday card today in the mail that had a picture of a flying pig on it. And so everybody that knows me knows that it's really important to me for you to know that you can't just sit and wait for pigs to fly. You've got to get up. You've got to get to work on things, or you're never going to move ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this concept, and when you and I were talking about your show, I understood the concept, and it applies to so many things in our lives. There's so many times that we wait for something. And, sometimes we have to save money before we do something, and I want to acknowledge that. But also, sometimes we don't stick to what we say we want and what we're going to do. So then
Absolutely.
We can't create what we truly want in our life. So Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly is a great reminder to us that we have this life, and our actions, our choices create the life that we continue to have. So we need support, we need to ask for help, we need to build our sales funnel, or we need to create our marketing copy. There's these things that need to happen. And when we don't, what's the result of that? What have you seen happen when people have waited and not taken action?
mainly frustration. I mean, people get really upset. They get angry. They go, I just don't understand why my business isn't taking off. And, then I ask them a few questions and no, and it goes back to again, well, I just think anybody would want to buy what I have to sell. I said, well, have you done the work to figure this out? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? And so what winds up happening often is they'll spend a lot of money and they'll not make anything back because they haven't spent it on the right things, or it never even gets started. And they wind up just giving up and saying, oh, business is horrible. Don't ever bother to go into business.
And one of the things that most of us have learned in life is if we do want something, it usually takes something from us. And usually it is action. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it takes action, takes consistency, perseverance, moving forward despite adversity. But it doesn't just come out of a bottle, right? The genie doesn't appear and says, okay, here's your 3 wishes and they're granted. That would be wonderful if that happened.
It doesn't.
So I think your adage, don't wait till pigs fly, and you're coming from a perspective of what are the steps people need to take to build a strong foundation so that their business is successful.
I agree.
So what do you think are the top, or maybe the top 3? If you had to, and I know in your show you'll go into more detail, but what are the top 3 systems or technologies or even the framework that you see people need to have in their business?
The top 3. It goes back to you got to have customers. If you're going to be a successful business, you've got to have money coming in. And again, you can make the best widget there is in the world, but if no one's buying it because they don't know it exists, you're not going to be in business long. So I think a CRM system, which stands for customer retention management, there's other names that they use for it sometimes, but that's the main one, is very important. And that can be anywhere from this very expensive software to an Excel spreadsheet, or paper and pen. And what it is a way to keep track of anybody and everybody that you've talked to that may be interested in what you have to offer. And you keep track of how you communicate with them. You keep track of how often you communicate. What is it they do? Why would they be interested in what it is you have? So you have a detail of who these people are. And you may know from the very beginning, well, this is probably not someone who's ever going to want what I have to offer, and they get a certain designation. And then you put down on your prospect list, this is a hot prospect. This is somebody that, said to contact them next week because they want to sign up, or this is actually a client and I've sold them X, Y, and Z over the past year. So you have knowledge of who you're working with and who you're potentially working with. And there's a lot of different softwares out there that can do that for you. So I think that's really important. I also think that social media itself is very important, whether that be LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or any of the social media sites that are out there, Pinterest. Because again, it's an easier method of letting people know you're there. But it's all about building relationships. So you have to be careful about what you do and how you do it. You can't just go out and start throwing out commercials and things like that. You have to understand what it is that you should be doing. And so I think those are probably the top two. Another technology that I think is really important, and none of these are brain surgery. They're not, they're not super difficult to understand, but you need to have something, QuickBooks or something like that, that's going to be able to help you understand your finances. You need to understand what's going out, what's coming in, and how that all merges together. So I think you need to have some sort of a financial program too.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned, I think is very important for people to realize. When you're starting out, as you said, to keep track of clients, to keep track of possible sales calls, you can do it with pen and paper. You can do it with an Excel spreadsheet. It does not have to cost any money to do that in the beginning. So people don't have to go out and buy a system that costs hundreds of dollars a month or thousands of dollars a year, and you don't have any clients to put into that system yet.
Right.
So individuals can start a business, and I know with some network marketing companies, they provide for a very low cost, they provide that website or that back office for individuals. For other people starting their own businesses, it can be a very simple process. And even with QuickBooks, and not that I'm recommending that you use QuickBooks, right? This is,
right.
We're not selling anything on this show in regards to QuickBooks, but they have a very simple plan that is low cost that you can input your finances. Because finances allows us to continue to have a business and to pay our bills, which we need to be friends with our finances.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and in a couple of different cases, I know right off the top of my head of about 4 different CRM programs that are computerized that are free. Doesn't cost a penny. I do recommend from the financial standpoint, but there are also free systems out there as well for that you do, unless you are an accountant or someone who knows a lot about finances, I do recommend that you get some sort of a financial package of some sort, because it allows you to answer and be responsible for things that you might not think about if you're just doing it with pen and paper. And it can show you your profit and loss statements. It can show you all the different forms that you really need to understand, because you can go out and say, I made $1,000 today, and not stop to realize that you just spent $3,000 on something. So you're still $2,000 in the hole.
And I think oftentimes that not understanding the finances is what frustrates people the most. And yes, we may have money coming in, but what is the money coming out?
Mm-hmm.
And once we understand that whole concept, that is when I think that we actually start making more money, because we see that relationship and we know we need a lot more coming in than what's going out. And one of the things that came to mind as we were mentioning, what is low cost or no cost to starting businesses, is that could even be a topic for one of your shows, is that you help people, because not everybody knows what those are.
Right.
And so I was just thinking, that could be a very helpful topic for a lot of individuals. So Nancy, the other thing I wanted you to share is you have had several different ways of working with individuals, working with your clients in your own business. So talk a little bit about how do you provide your coaching services and your business consulting to people with the different ways that you provide your packages or provide your services?
Sure. The main one that I do is a mastermind program, and most people now, I'm thinking, probably have heard of mastermind programs, but I don't do the standard mastermind. What I do, everything that I do, and that's why I don't consider myself a coach, but I consider myself a consultant, is I provide answers. Oftentimes, the coach's responsibility is to get you to figure out things on your own. Whereas I work with you and I provide resources and answers. And so my mastermind programs do give the participants a time when they can share with the other people in the group and ask for suggestions and ideas. But the large part of the group is spent on training, and we talk in 3-month segments on different topics. We're starting this week, we're actually starting on a new 3-month session that's talking about branding and different aspects of branding and what does branding mean, and we'll be doing that over the next 3 months. So that's my main business. I also do a yearly business retreat. That's a three-day retreat, and I believe it's so important to take time to work on your business and not work in your business. So the retreats are always held in, doesn't have to be exotic places. It just, a couple of years we had them at a campground, but they had nice buildings and places like that. But I've had them at hotels where there are conference centers. But I have speakers who come in and talk on specific topics. We have exercises and things that we do. It's all working together. The speakers are not the kind of people that stand up front and act like teachers and all that. Everybody gets to talk and share and be a part of the whole thing. And the evenings we usually just get around and sit around the campfire and talk and share ideas with each other and get to know each other. I keep the groups small so that people really do get to start building these relationships that I think are very important. So that's another way that we work. I also am working on edits for a book I wrote a year or so ago that's called Baby Steps to Starting and Growing Your Own Business. And it's all worksheets and tips and techniques for, if you do this from the beginning to the end, you will have your business plan. You'll be able to just jump right in and be ready to get started with your business. We're doing training programs online where we're probably going to be going through either Teachable or Udemy in order to do these classes. And there's just other things that are in the beginning stages. The podcast, I am so excited about being able to do this podcast because it's going to be another way I'm going to be able to share the resources with people. So.
Sharing resources, connecting with individuals. And I think by sharing the different ways that you provide your services to your clients, it helps people to understand when you're building a coaching, consulting business, regardless of the topic. Your specific topic is you help people to build businesses. When you provide different ways for people to access you, then you're able to work with more people. You're able to attract your ideal client, your niche, per se, the population that you want to serve. You attract them to come into working with you in different avenues. And so I think it's a good example for the listeners to understand, look at your business that you have today. How are you providing your services to your clients? And if there's only one, you might want to look at, okay, how are there different ways I can do it? But also, if you have 20 or 30 ways of providing your services to clients, and that might be a bit too much,
Yeah.
So we have to focus and decide what is the best way. And so, and Nancy, I am very excited also for you to join Global Voice Radio and to share your many years of knowledge, experience, your boots on the ground perspective to individuals who are building their business. And it is, doing the worksheets, right? It's doing the work. And even if it's not answering all the questions exactly on paper, sometimes that's not my forte. I like answering things in my head. But there are certain things that we want on paper, that we want in our computer, that we create so that our business is strong, right? Foundationally strong. And I know that the tips, the recommendations, the information that you are going to provide in Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly, your shows will air on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. And so I'm really excited because as a business owner myself, I know I can always learn from listening to other successful business owners. I do not ever discount that I will not learn something. So I'm excited to listen to your tips and recommendations and have it reinforce what I am doing and what I'm learning as I build and grow my business. So Nancy, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
I just want to say anybody who is thinking about or trying to run a business and want to be successful, I give you so much credit and just say, hang in there. I know it's tough going sometimes, but it's really worth it in the long run, and just keep on going. You're going to be successful. It's going to be a productive and wonderful time for you. Just keep on going. Don't wait till pigs fly, but do it now.
So, and Nancy, how can people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you? What are the ways they can do that?
Okay. They can get a hold of me on Facebook at Nancy Becher. My business page is Business Success Unlimited. I am on LinkedIn as BSU Connector, and my email is nancy@nancybecherbiz.com.
And for our listeners, Nancy will also be on our website, globalvoiceradio.com. Also connect with us in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Global Voice Radio. So please join us, connect with our hosts, ask questions on our Facebook, and ask us, let us know what you need to build your business, to create a life that you want. So Nancy, thank you very much for joining Global Voice Radio. I am so excited to introduce you to our listeners, to our network, and I look forward to listening to your show.
Thank you very much, and I'm excited to be able to be a part of the program.
And thank you to all of our listeners and our supporters, and do connect with us so that we can continue to provide you with information that helps you. Thank you for listening to Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly with host Nancy Becher. Join Nancy every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio.